So my name is Jim Jasinski. I'm with OSU Extension with the Integrated Pest Management Program. I'm the coordinator of that program, and I'm very glad to be here this morning with you at this workshop. I'm glad that you showed up. We were hoping for a few more folks, but the folks that are here, they're all very important people, and we're glad that you're here. Just a few housekeeping things to sort of work out before we get started. Right now we are actually recording these presentations and we'll be putting them online, so the line of view is kind of right through here, so if you have to get up, just as low profile as you can would be appreciated. There's plenty of coffee and water in the back and some tea, so feel free to grab that whenever you need to. If you don't know where the restrooms are, they're simply down the hall here on the right-hand side. Okay? And you may have noticed that we have liquid refreshments, but there's no donuts, no danishes, no nothing like that, and that's not because we're cheap. That was on purpose because we want you nice and hungry for the sensory evaluation, so we didn't want you to waste all your calories, this morning on stuff like that. So that was very intentful, and again, I'm glad you're here. I want to introduce the other folks that are here that are part of this workshop. My co-organizer, Ashley Kulhanek. She's also with OSU Extension. She's up in Medina County. We have a few people that didn't show up that we'll introduce later on, but the folks that are here, again, over on the far side, we have Dr. Jeff Cohen from the Department of Anthropology. He'll be talking about the cultural aspects of entomophagy later on. And far back of the room, we have Kevin Bachhuber. And Kevin has a very interesting tale to tell us, and I'm not sure exactly what his title is anymore, but Chief Cricket Herder or something like that would probably be appropriate for right now, but we'll let him tell his story later on. So, as we look at this opening slide right here, you might just think I threw things up on the slide that were colorful, but this is actually, to me, represents the spectrum of what we're going to be talking about today. If you look at the far left side, these are insect-fortified foods. These are cookies and crackers and tortilla chips and protein bars and things that, you don't see any part of the insect. It's all ground up, homogenized, but it's in there, okay? You got the middle, which is, kind of a combination of sugar and then the pure, cricket there. These are liquid cricket. You've probably seen these before in stores. And you get to the far side, these would be more of the purist, and they take it by the spoonful, they take it on the kebab, whatever it is. But so we're not trying to push anybody into any different compartment here. We're simply saying there's probably a spot for everybody, one way or the other. So, okay, so what are the goals of the workshop? Basically, we just want to familiarize you with some of the key concepts and the practices surrounding the eating of insects, which is what entomophagy is. We want to raise your level of awareness of the social and environmental and economic aspects of this discipline as well. So those are sort of the upfront kind of formal goals. We just really want you to walk away with a better appreciation for what this area has to offer. So how did this all get started? This is kind of a crazy topic, so you might have some concerns about how we did walk down this trail. And actually, this all started back almost a year ago in 2015. Ashley and I were asked to revise the Master Gardener Basic Entomology chapter, and so we did that, and so we were going back and forth with all these edits. And at the very, very end, Ashley said, is there anything else that we should think about, for the future for this chapter? And I said, well, I just got back from this IPM symposium, and they had this whole section that was on entomophagy. Maybe we should toss something in there about entomophagy, and then, kind of the rest is history. It just happened that basically a few weeks after that, these OSU innovation grants came out. We applied. We were successful in getting one, and so that's really what the basis for all the funding for this is that particular grant. So that's how we got started. So this is, again, we want you to have fun. We want you to enjoy this. I mean, we're glad that you're here, but the original intent of this was that, we would basically be able to hand you a curriculum that you would be able to go back and whatever your discipline or area is, and then be able to teach some of this. So in some of the materials that you got, that green folder in particular, you have all kinds of goodies to teach from. You have presentations. Some of those have notes with them, if you look at the PowerPoints. You also have a hard copy, just in case you want to take notes as you go along. You can go ahead and put it right there on the paper. You have this report right here, which is an incredible resource. This is the FAO report on edible insects. This just came out in 2013. This is extremely current. Lots of great information in here. And actually, it's about 200 pages, but it really reads quickly. It probably 4, 5, 6 hours, you could probably plow through, the whole thing. And so it's just a great resource. And I want you to look very carefully at this person on the front cover on the right-hand side. You might see that person presenting here later on today, okay? Just do a Where's Waldo and you might find that person, okay? So we have that. We have another book for you, another resource. This is a book by Daniela Martin. This is called Edible. And I saw this woman give a presentation at that IPM symposium I spoke to you about and just really gave a great synopsis of the book. Kind of gives you a flavor. She traveled around and saw different things that related to insects and eating insects and culture that I think you might appreciate. So this is something there for you to enjoy as well. There's lots of other fact sheets and reference papers that are in that guide, so please lean on those, or if you want to use the Google machine and find different things online, it's just incredible what's out there for you to look at. There's also a sensory evaluation protocol. There's the PowerPoint and some other things that will help you sort of walk through that part if you decide to have a little bit of a taste test along with your presentation. There are infographics. Now, the ones you have are the ones that we received permission to reprint. There's a lot of infographics out there that are, intellectual property that we just can't pull off the web and print. I mean, we can't. You might be able to, but we can't. So those are the ones that we have permission for, but there's lots of other things out there. And in fact, my favorite one is this one right here. I mean, we were going to make these huge posters, and we got halfway down the road with this organization that actually owns the rights to this, Guardian. It's a publishing company out of New England. Across the sea, Great Britain, I should say. And at first they said, yeah, you can use it for free. And then we printed them. And they're like, no, you owe us 50 pounds a year for perpetuity. I'm like, no, that's okay. But we already printed these copies. So these ones go on your wall. They don't get given out. Or, if you do, you didn't get them from us. We have recipes that are in the guide, in the curriculum package to hand out. Of course, there's worksheet or a workshop evaluation. Extension, that's what we hang our hats on, as evaluation. All this stuff is also on a thumb drive. And I realize now that those thumb drives are in my backpack. So that explains why you don't have them. But we'll get those distributed to you later on. But all this information is also on the thumb drive. As I said, we are going to record these individual presentations and put them up on the OSU IPM YouTube website. So we'll cut them into chunks and put them out there. We won't put the whole 6-hour thing up there at one point in time. So if you need to refer back to those, you'll have them. And then we have door prizes. So hopefully you all picked up a ticket as you came in the door. Anybody who didn't pick up a ticket? Then you aren't eligible. You have to get a ticket, okay? So what are we raffling off? Well, in the spirit of entomophagy, we're going to be raffling off this book that says, All Cricket, No Bull, okay? And it's really a cookbook about cooking with cricket flour. And of course, if you're going to be cooking, you have to have the cricket flour. So we're going to give you a 1/4 pound of cricket flour. We have 5 of those to give away, and we have some other goodies to hand out as well. So I think you're going to be taken care of, with lots of handouts and goodies to go home with. So you shouldn't feel like your $15 was an overpayment for this at all. Okay, so real quickly, why entomophagy? Why are we all here? Why are we interested in this? I can just hear my mom say, who in their right mind would ever want to eat bugs or eat insects? And I think in a word, it's survival. Okay, tens and tens of thousands of years ago, we didn't have grocery stores and McDonald's or restaurants. Folks were hunters and gatherers, and they used whatever they could find as a food source. And insects, as you're going to find out, are a great source of protein and sometimes fat. So I mean, this is the fast food of the day, really, some of these insects. So then we had this shift kind of go on from hunter-gatherers to more agrarian lifestyle, more domesticated livestock and crops. And so that's kind of what we're seeing now is that. But back then, essentially, the question was, could insects be used as a staple food? And really, there's issues with, the populations might be just too unpredictable, going up and going down. They might be very seasonal. They might just come out in the spring. Well, that's great for the spring, but you have 3 more seasons to sort of deal with. So, that might be one of the reasons that we don't see as much adoption of entomophagy today. But also the benefits of having larger domesticated animals, things like fur and milk, meat, leather, you could use them in the field, use them for transportation. So a lot of reasons that we sort of gravitated toward domesticated animals in that sense. And likewise, we started to domesticate crop plants, and it's the same situation. You can probably all relate to this if you have gardens. There's a plant you want, it's in the garden, and insects come by and they start chewing on it and feeding on it, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I see you insects really not as a food source, but as a competitor with these plants that I'm trying to raise. And so as we shifted to that more agrarian lifestyle, we saw them as more of a competitor than as a food source, really. So, long story short, we sort of went the route of domestication of animals and of crops for our main food supply, for food security reasons and for constancy in supply. So that's some of the real quick background of how the entomophagy, the origins of it. And I'm sure Jeff will get a bit more into it as well. So, but you think of it as the original paleo diet. Nothing, warms the heart more than having a couple of roasted crickets or worms over the fire or a nice taco, full with crickets. Okay, and this is just sort of, from my personal perspective here, I've really spent my entire career in integrated pest management. So that tells you that, my whole job was really to control and to kill insects up until this point. Sometimes successful, sometimes not. My mom would always say things like, well, if you can't beat them, join them, right? And I would say, well, maybe if you can't beat them, you should eat them. So maybe that's another way we eat our way, out of these issues. And for those people that, are always complaining about what insects, do in terms of feeding of your crops, well, maybe it's time to bite back a little bit. So that's just a little bit of humor to sort of set you up for our next wonderful speaker, Ashley Kulhanek. I want to just mention that we did receive some discounts on the products that we're going to be sampling later on today. Biddy has provided the cookies, and so a company, you can look them up online, BITTY. Six Foods, they provided some of their tortilla chips, and then Chapul is a company out in Salt Lake City that does protein bars, and of course the actual real financing came from OSU Extension, the Innovation Grant Series. And we have some special invited guests, and I've already talked about Kevin in the back. We'll call him CEO and founder of the Big Cricket Farms, and we'll let him tell his story later on. And then we're going to be expecting Glenn Courtwright here shortly. Glenn is CEO and president and founder, I believe, of EnviroFlight, which is a company that's located in Yellow Springs, which is, so we've got one up in Youngstown and one down right here, a little bit west of us in Yellow Springs. These guys are like literally the rock stars of the entomophagy movement. I mean, and they're based here in Ohio. You don't realize how fortunate you are to have these folks here. What they're doing, the work they're doing is incredible. And when they tell their stories, I think you'll see that they are incredible stories. And just so you don't get the impression this is kind of a one and done, like you're here and there's no other place to go, believe it or not, both Kevin and Glenn are going to be at this event happening in Detroit called Eating Insects in Detroit. It's at the end of May. And so if you'd like to register and go and attend it, it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday function. I'm sure Kevin probably has a lot more details about it, but I mean, it's there. So this is definitely, something that's trending. There's definitely some energy behind it. So I would encourage you to check it out if you're interested.